Good afternoon, everybody. It's Dave Neal here on January 2nd, 2025 for your afternoon rush hour ride home. I've got all of your news in one place, and on today's afternoon rush, new developments with the attack on innocent civilians in New Orleans. FBI says the attack doesn't look connected to the Las Vegas Cybertruck bomb. Also, Bourbon Street reopening tonight in preparation for tonight's Sugarbowl. Some critics wonder if the game is being played too soon following the tragedy. Also, in Bachelor news, Bachelorette star Michael A. hard launches his new girlfriend. I'll share what he had to say. And with an update in the Justin Baldoni lawsuit he's filed against the New York Times for $250 million. Now, WME, William Morris Endeavor, denies they were pressured into dropping Justin Baldoni by Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. More on that insane story. Also, good news for Simone Biles. She was named Sports Illustrated's Sports Person of the Year for 2024. And Luigi Mangione, still in the news, featured at a drag event. Wait till you see this video I'm going to share with you. For anyone wondering if his cult status is going away anytime soon, I don't think so. I'll have all of those stories and so much more coming up next on The Rush. There's always going to be people looking at the reporting that goes on during a massive story like the one happening in New Orleans and questioning the messaging and what's being told. I've already been criticized for information that came out this morning regarding how many IEDs were placed throughout the scene, and I want to clear some of that up. But first, here's Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry discussing changing information from the New Orleans terrorist attack that happened on New Year's morning.
Yesterday, the FBI said that people should be vigilant, that he did not act alone, that he likely had help, and now you're coming out the very next day and saying he was a lone wolf, everything is safe, the game moves on, everybody have a good time. How can you be so sure just 12 hours later?
Well, we're going to bring him up, all right? But here's what I want to remind everyone, like I was a deputy sheriff, right? I worked in a jail, I worked on the street, I worked on the interstate. I served warrants. I can tell you. Look, in today's world, I get it. Information, we get information like that. Everybody lives in a 15-second TikTok video. We think that life operates like it does on our phones, and it just doesn't. Information changes. In fact, that's why we ask the media for patience. We get information, like I said, no one dumps 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle and puts it together in 5 seconds.
You know, this is a great point, and we have to remember this as people sift through the information. There's a difference between sharing misinformation or information that's meant to deceive others versus, being at high alert. And the conversation right now is to be at high alert, even if this is considered a lone event. If you see something that doesn't belong, where, if you see a package or something that looks like, sketchy and in a high crowded area, be on high alert. I think that's fair to say whenever you're in one of these crowded places. Now, some folks will just want the conspiracy. Oh, there must be more to the story. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. Here we have them discussing that the New Orleans attacker acted alone. How bizarre, though, if the New Orleans actor acted alone and is not related to the Vegas bomber. That would be very, very bizarre if that is the case. But let's listen to what the FBI has to say.
Let me be very clear about this point. This was an act of terrorism. It was premeditated and an evil act. This was obviously a critical incident, and with that, lots of information and tips come pouring in from law enforcement, first responders, and the public. We have been aggressively running down these tips and information. As you all know, that takes time, and we will continue to do so until every lead has been followed through on. This investigation is only a little more than 24 hours old. So I ask you to keep in mind that as I go through some of the specifics later.
And one of the specifics that they're going through now is that they believe the truck attack suspect did place 2 improvised explosive devices in the area around Bourbon Street. I covered this morning and someone said, "Oh, Dave, don't be sharing this misinformation. It's been debunked." Well, they're still saying that while it might not have been 4, the information wasn't exactly accurate. There were multiple devices they believe this lone attacker planted.
FBI bomb technicians also recovered 2 IEDs in coolers, one from the cross section of Bourbon and Orleans Street, and the second at an intersection approximately 2 blocks away. There were multiple reports of other devices. Those reports turned out to be misinformation or not actual functioning devices. Those are the only 2 devices that we've been able to recover that were functional. Both devices were rendered safe on scene. We did obtain surveillance footage showing Jabbar placing the devices where they were found. The IED was inside a cooler, and many people stopped and looked at the cooler and then continued on their way. Let's be clear, again, we do not believe at this point these people are involved in this incident in any way. We want to speak to them as witnesses and want to know what they saw and when.
So what he's saying is their surveillance footage showed people looking at the cooler, and I guess initially some thought, well, maybe those were the people that planted the cooler. And they're saying, no, they've got Jabbar doing that. So again, a lot of the conspiracies that there's more people working. If there's any security footage, I'm sure that'll come out if that's the case, but signs aren't pointing towards that. All right, here's another aspect of the story, and after we cover all this, we'll move over to Justin Baldoni and cover a couple less kind of sad stories, really. New Orleans terrorists struggled to adjust to life outside the military. Here's what they're learning about Jabbar.
The suspect in this attack, does it square in any way, shape, or form? I mean, you must have been stunned when you heard.
Oh, yeah. I was just lounging on the couch having, I think, the New Year's Day that a lot of Americans expect. And an Atlanta Journal-Constitution reporter, Joseph Papp, reached out to me on Twitter and said, "Did you write this story in 2015?" I said, "Sure. Why? What does it matter?" He said, that could be the suspect. And my head was spinning. And what little I remember about that interview was a very cool, calm, and collected guy. Like nothing about his character threw any red flags, which I think is reflective of what a lot of us are hearing while we're covering this story. I mean, a lot of my colleagues at the New York Times talk to family and friends, and they're telling you this was a wild 180. So no, what I remember about the interview with him was his pretty reserved demeanor. He was a little bit distant in the way that you sometimes see from veterans who, have had difficult deployments.
So he talks about that there was a struggle kind of assimilating back into civilian life. But again, this was over a decade ago. Jabbar's own younger brother also commented saying, look, we were raised Christian, and maybe, he did learn more about other religions, but it wasn't those religions that radicalized him. It would have been something that, someone else would radicalize him using religion. So again, I say all this because we don't need this to be an example for Islamophobia or things like that. If that's the case, if he was acting on behalf of ISIS, it was alleged that the flag that he had was an ISIS flag, but it could have just been the doings of a raged man. All right, Bourbon Street is opening today for the Sugarbowl. Is not right on Bourbon Street, but of course Bourbon Street, one of the main places where all of the outdoor festivities go down, people drinking in the streets, walking around. Here's what they have to say about trying to return to normal.
So while we have been able to have Bourbon Street return back to the city of New Orleans, and the due diligence has been done, that then allowed me to give the go-ahead to begin the cleaning of Bourbon Street. That started happening in the morning about 2 a.m. It was completed before 8 a.m. this morning. But that has really set the tone, I would say, and with the confidence that I have in the law enforcement partners, all of the resources that have been activated, how we have made sure that safety continues to be our top priority, how our assets have been deployed strategically, again, for the safety and the protection of our visitors and our residents in the city. And because of that, the confidence is there to reopen Bourbon Street to the public prior to game time time today.
Now, look, I mean, obviously there's some criticisms to say, why don't you just delay the game even further? But look, the game's going to be played at the Sugarbowl. It's going to have high security, but there's going to be security getting in and out. So it's probably going to be a very safe place to be with that standpoint. And if they think that there's no other threats and they've swept and cleaned the city, then I don't see why not. You're not going to go back to normal. There's going to be this haze over New Orleans for what this sad day that they're going to have to relive in the memories here and all of that. But look, I mean, what else are they supposed to do if they don't have any credible threats? All right, I'm going to get to what the Vegas police are saying about any connectivity between the cyber truck in Vegas that exploded and the New Orleans event, and I'll have that story for you next. The one thing everybody's asking is there a connection between the Las Vegas event and the New Orleans event? Because if there are, then you would think that there should be other cities under high alert. And is there another aspect to this sort of terrorist activity happening? Unsure if there is any connection. Here's what the sheriffs have to say, the Vegas police investigating that connectivity.
Do I think it's a coincidence? I don't know, but what I can tell you is we're absolutely investigating any connectivity to what happened in New Orleans, as well as other attacks that have been occurring around the world. We're not ruling anything out yet, Dana. The question is there any links to ISIS? And I will tell you that we don't have any indication of that here in Las Vegas, no overt ISIS flag as was seen in New Orleans. But again, we are investigating every aspect of this, and if that comes to light, we'll certainly update you.
And I think it's important, like they said, to just be patient and let it all play out. There have been some updates that there is no correlation, but I wouldn't close the door on that until they know as much as they can figure out. Okay, let's take a complete 180 from those tragic stories and get to another sad story, but that being just the spat, the lawsuit trading between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. Now, it's important to note that Blake Lively filed a complaint against Justin Baldoni. He's claiming it was made to smear him because during that complaint, you don't have to open yourself up to discovery, depositions, and things like that. He's filed a full-blown lawsuit against the New York Times for $250 million. We covered this on today's YouTube channel in a 2-hour live stream. We read the whole thing. Here's what's tricky, right? When you hear her 80-page complaint, you side with her because it's pretty damning. When you read his, you side with him and you go, well, everything that could have been explained away was. So what does it come down to? He alleges that she, kind of put this paper trail together to accuse him of nefarious activity at the very least, because she wanted power over him in the production so that she could edit the movie as she sees fit. Whether that's true or not, that's the lawsuit he's filed. Whether it gets thrown out or accepted, we'll have to see if they go to court. I would love to see the trial go through just so we could get all the information needed to kind of make a judgment. He alleges, Justin Baldoni does, in that lawsuit that WME was pressured by Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively to drop him, since Ryan Reynolds is represented by WME. WME is one of the top agencies, along with UTA and CAA. They're the biggest ones out there. You know, if you've got a project starring Ryan Reynolds, WME probably will cast their talent alongside it. It's all synergy. And of course, Justin Baldoni, he's a relative A-lister in his own right, but of course now becoming more known for what's going on with these with all of these allegations being thrown. His lawsuit against the New York Times filed Tuesday claims that Reynolds pressured the It Ends With Us co-star and director's former agent at the Deadpool and Wolverine premiere to drop him. They're saying that that's not true. But in what world, and I reject this, WME says, oh, that's not why we dropped him. Okay. I mean, they went with the more powerful person. And don't get me wrong, Blake's complaint was very damning, but, shouldn't we be able to hear his side of everything that went down? As was reported in his lawsuit against the New York Times, there were text messages that actually were cherry-picked, one of which didn't include an upside-down emoji, an upside-down smiley face. As we had to do some Googling and find out, an upside-down smiling face implies sarcasm. So in one of the text messages that was meant to look like Justin Baldoni's team acted to smear Blake, they're claiming that due to the upside down smiley face that it was sarcastic. So look, I mean, I'm at that point where I'm like, look, take this to court. I want to hear the whole thing played out. just for my own personal opinions, I'm not going to have one until we hear both sides, depositions, and all of that. It's bloody. It's a mess. It doesn't look like either side's going to come out looking great in all of this, because there was clear instances where it looks like Blake may have outkicked her coverage, may have accused him of things that he has some pretty good paper trail for that to be wrong. But we're going to see how it all plays out. It's very interesting. All right, so enough on the Baldonis. Let's go to something way lighter. This is Caitlin Clark being interviewed on the New Heights podcast with the Kelsey brothers. She discusses her allegiance to Kansas City, providing proof she's been a fan for a long time. This after people were accusing her of only becoming fans of Kansas City so she could get in with the Swifties. Here's what she has to say.
Let's talk about your biggest accomplishment, being a part of Chiefs Kingdom.
That's right.
How long have you been a part of the Kingdom?
I'm a Midwest kid, so
Yeah.
there's this picture that's been circulating a couple years ago when I was on Peyton Eli's Monday Night Show, where I'm in a full Chiefs outfit. I had family in Kansas City, and I grew up in Des Moines, Iowa, which is only 3 hours from Kansas City. So that's just the closest NFL team. So my dad was a big Chiefs fan growing up.
So cool.
People think I'm like a bandwagon Chiefs fan. I'm like, no, I was there before Patrick and Travis.
I love it.
We were ride or die. So we've been big fans. And now obviously all the success you guys have had has made it a lot of fun for us.
Who's your favorite player?
I mean, obviously Travis is up there.
Listen, this is why they get paid the big bucks. They're just fun. They're fun guys to talk to. Caitlin Clark, one of the biggest basketball personalities, if not sports personalities out there after her dominant rookie season. So good to see greats interviewing greats here in the world of athletes. And speaking of greats, congrats to Simone Biles. She was named Sports Illustrated's 2024 Person of the Year.
This morning, the Queen of Gymnastics has another crowning achievement. Sports Illustrated has named Simone Biles 2024's Sports Person of the Year.
Honestly, it is such a huge honor. I know some of the greats that have won it in prior years, so to just keep gymnastics on the map is really exciting.
This latest laurel caps an amazing year for Simone, but the 7-time gold medalist says she was still caught off guard.
I know a lot of people love the sport of gymnastics during an Olympic year and have followed my career closely, but I was still very shocked. I feel like I'm always shocked winning any sort of award or being honored.
You know what's great? It's like every 4 years we remember about gymnastics, and then for 3.5 years they can just go on and lead normal lives. She's considering doing another Olympic run. I mean, this after she had the yips 4 years ago or 3 years ago due to the pandemic. She came back and she crushed it. I say keep performing at such a high level and keep showing people that the sky is the limit. Well, speaking of performing at a high level, I've got a clip here of a drag show. TMZ shared this video. Luigi Mangione's cultural impact is starting to show. Now, you might say, Dave, you're glorifying a murderer, alleged murderer. I'm not doing anything. I'm showing you that this whole Luigi Mangione story is not going anywhere. He had a lookalike contest. It's not necessarily that the general public says what he did was right, but people are so fed up by a system that is not working for them, a system that's predatory, a system that doesn't make sense. I've shared this healthcare issue and people from other countries go, hey, Dave, I don't understand. If it's so predatory, why do you have to sign up for health insurance? And you go, well, you get fined if you don't. Huh? If it's so predatory, why don't you just pay cash? Well, then they work, and there's really no right way to navigate the broken healthcare system here. So for those that say, well, what he did was wrong, I agree if he did in fact do what he did. And yet at the same time, we have to understand the cultural significance of what he did. He's actually, I'm assuming because of the tightening of approving cases that they may have not approved, United Healthcare that is, he's probably actually saved innocent lives in the process. And you say, well, isn't there a better way to go about this? Well, I mean, is there? I honestly don't know. Nothing has been more effective than what we've seen go down in the last month. Here is the inspiration behind a viral drag performance sparking chatter online. This is a drag show. We love a good drag show. And I guess the drag performer is dressed as Luigi Mangione, and they perform a song by the movie Wicked. So Look at the crowd. I mean, just listen to the crowd here. And if you're listening on the podcast, I've got this on YouTube as well. The crowd is going nuts for a hooded man doing drag. He turns around. He's singing the, Gravity song by Wicked. The crowd's going crazy. He's about to take off his shirt and reveal that he's portraying Luigi. I'm just going to share the audio of this crowd response here. So, because these are people that, like, there he is. They pull up Luigi in the background. He takes his shirt off and people go crazy. And look, obviously, I love the openness of drag shows, and it's like you just can do crazy stuff, and it's a form of expression. It's your First Amendment right. It is his First Amendment right, this performer here, to dress in drag or not in drag as Luigi Mangione. He puts a backpack on. He stands up. They give him a wicked broom so that he can hold that. Listen to the crowd. So, I mean, look, well, some people watching this go, oh my gosh, this is so cruel. This innocent man was killed. Sure, yeah. I mean, you can feel however you want about it, but the fact that this conversation is happening just shows you, I don't care what people say, I don't care who tries to ban it, people are done accepting the status quo. And if it's a drag show on a Sunday brunch, spilling mimosas, if that's the conversation that's happening, people are having it. All right, we'll be back with more right after this. We love to offer advice to you guys out there, regardless of what world you live in, what jobs you have. We've got a TED Talk speaker here explaining why you should ask dumb questions. Have a listen.
Often actually makes you the most valuable person in the room. I can tell you that this is one of my greatest strengths. I am comfortable sounding like a moron. I am great at sitting in rooms with brilliant people asking very dumb questions. But what that actually means is that I have become an extraordinary learner. My favorite phrase is, sorry if this is a stupid question, but. When you ask it that way, everybody wants to make you feel better. They're like, no, that's not a dumb question. And then they would love to teach you what they know. People love being teachers. It makes
I know that from the comment section. Every single person in the comment section wants to tell me something I got wrong.
Them feel smart. The other thing you discover is that most stupid questions aren't actually stupid. So many people are afraid of sounding dumb that the world is littered with important questions that never got asked. Questions like, can you define that word for me? Why are we doing this? Why are we having this meeting?
Love it. Yeah, no, this is great. And, the fear of asking dumb questions is the fear of having a growth mindset. So in 2025, it's day 2. If there's something you need to learn, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to Google. Don't be afraid to sound dumb. I love. You ever been in a conversation where you're just like, hey, I don't even what is Bitcoin? And then 7 people go, oh my gosh, I'm glad you asked. I have no idea. And it's like, be okay. It actually lowers the bar of other people to be like to just be like, I don't, just to be honest and authentic and not presume to know everything. Isn't that why we're on this earth, to learn a few things? All right. Well, speaking of learning things, let's learn about being an influencer. Here's some great advice that was shared by Forbes on their TikTok today about if you get into content creation, you're going to have to deal with haters. It's just important to know this. Have a listen to this.
But I think when people are entering this world of influencing, it doesn't matter like how nice you are. You are still going to get hate regardless. Yes. So you have to make peace with that and understand that the content you're making and why you're doing it is not for the people who are looking for a reason to hate you. It's for other people who need you.
Unbelievable stuff. I mean, yeah, my channel took off 4 years ago, and immediately as my channel started getting featured on the For You pages and the home pages of YouTube, it was life-changing for my career. I was able to stop going to jobs I hated, stop dealing with bosses I hated, and I was able to work for myself, provide for my family, start a family, buy a home, all these great things. With that comes a psychology experiment I do not wish on anybody, and yet at the same time is worth the trade-off. And that being that that when you start getting boosted by the algorithms, when you get fame as a comedian, which I don't have, but when you get that, you will then get criticized on that new level of fame, which means nothing you do or say can please everybody. And I think what's important to remember, kind of like from the TEDx talk or the TED talk right there, is to remember that, you're not supposed to be perfect. And for those that want you to be perfect, you'll never be. So why even try? Just try to do your best and have a growth mindset. Be okay learning, but also be okay sharing if you don't know something. We've covered this with some trivial or some actually very difficult conversations in Bachelor Nation, where I've had to go, hey, I never learned about that in school. Oh my gosh, how could you? What's so wrong? I don't know. I'm just telling you right now. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to move and grow and be better. And yet social media and the online world is about having the perfect answer at all times. I'm here to tell you in 2025, let's normalize not having all the answers. Let's normalize continuing to grow and being okay with that. I'll agree to that if you guys agree to it. All right. And if there's any negative comments out there, leave them. I'm not rating them. I mean, sometimes they'll find you, but as Caitlin Bristow says, you're shopping for pain, and we don't want to do that in 2025. All right. I'll be back in the morning. Tomorrow's going to be a pretty banger day, this kind of broken up week with the New Year's, but I'll be here with all your content tomorrow. If you want to check out that 2-hour live stream, you can go to YouTube and see me reading the Justin Baldoni lawsuit. It's actually very, very interesting. Otherwise, I'll be back in the morning. I'm Dave Neal. This is The Rush.